Good morning. Welcome to First Presbyterian Church for Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church's service. Hey, Lisa, what is that? Do you hear that sound? It's like engines revving.
Well, Gregory, don't you know? It's the start of the auction.
Oh, that's right. It's starting this Wednesday at 7 p.m.?
That's right, and you better be ready at the gate. Engines revving at 7 o'clock because those sign-up events, they sell out fast.
That's my favorite part. What do we have this year?
Oh, we've got some great music events you do not want to miss. We have dinners by some new hosts. We have hikes. We're going to keep you busy all fall long.
Oh, and then there's the Annex Treasures.
Yes, that's our big feature this year. We have, art by Jerry Cross and Tom Zulke, and religious statues from Tony's special collection. What are you doing?
I'm drumming up excitement for the auction. And
Wow.
This is one of the Annex Treasures.
Wow, I like that. Is there more like that?
Yes, lots more. There's drums, guitar, and Tony's brain stick.
Ooh, that's a big one. And remember, this is open to everyone. Invite your friends, invite your family, just share the link. You can bid from anywhere.
And remember, this is not about getting a good deal. It's about supporting our church, its programs, and our outreach into the community. So be generous.
And please, bid with your heart and soul.
Okay, now that we got the talent portion over with. The 8th Principal Committee has been asked to invite OBUUC to attend a lunch and learn book discussion sponsored by First Presbyterian Church on Tuesday, May 14th and Tuesday, June 11th at noon for a discussion on the 100 Years' War on Palestine, a history of settler colonialism and resistance. Please RSVP to register. There will be a path to OBUUC next Sunday, May 19th from 12:30 to 2. Join Reverend Danielle and Leanne Palmaville for a light lunch and conversation on Unitarian Universalism. Please RSVP and do indicate if you need childcare. The next deadline for paper raise right orders is Sunday, May 26th. See me if you need a form. The annex is empty, and the closing is set for tomorrow. So don't send mail to 419 6th Street. Notify your banks and other institutions regarding sending payments to OBUUC. Use the 625 College Avenue for our mailing address. Thank you to our volunteers today, our ushers, Joe Cushing and Christina Mondragon. I'll get it one of these days. And our Zoom host, Jody Spencer, and our coffee hour hosts, Sandy Berezowitz, Brenna Woolman, and Mary Beth Zilke. For more information and details about all these announcements, along with others and community announcements, please see your weekly emails. Please join us for coffee hour in Erman Hall following the service. For those joining us on YouTube, log into Zoom after the service for your coffee hour. The link is in today's email. And don't forget, auction bidding starts 7 p.m. on Wednesday.
Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the Reverend Danielle Lindstrom. My pronouns are she, hers, and it is good to be together. Welcome. Welcome to everyone here in person, everyone joining us on YouTube. Can we wave? Good morning. To those joining now and will watch us in the future. Our welcome words from our own Alex Riley. It is good to be together. Together in this co-created sacred space where all are welcome. No matter how you experience or express gender, you are welcome here. No matter who or how you love, you are welcome here. No matter where you are from or where you are in your journey, you are welcome here. No matter if you come full of energy or find yourself running on empty, you are welcome here. You are part of a beloved community that is sacred because each of us is sacred. Each of us is always held in a larger love. It is good to be together. We will begin our service with shared ritual, lighting our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition, and Ellie is going to light our chalice for us this morning. These words coming from the Reverend Meg Barnhouse. We gather to worship, our hearts alive with hope that here we will be truly seen. Here we will be truly seen. Here we will be welcomed into the garden of this community, where the simple and the elegant, the fluted and frilled, the shy and dramatic complement one another and are treasured. We know that here each contributes in their way to the beauty of the whole. Come, let us worship together, all genders, sexualities, politics, progressive or conservative. May we root ourselves in the values of this faith, compassion and courage, transcendence, justice, and transformation. I invite you to rise in body and in spirit, join in singing our first hymn. This is hymn number 1 in the gray hymn book, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
And now it's time for the message for all ages. So if all the children and those young at heart can come on forward. So this month's theme is pluralism, which means that things are more than one thing. So for example, you that I see sitting down here, some of you, you're all more than one thing. You're friends, some of you are students, some of you are brothers, some of you are sisters, some of you are dancers, some of you are cooks, artists, some of you are musicians. So you're more than one thing, right? And that's what this story is about. And it's A Stone Stood Still by Brendan Wenzel. A stone sat still with the water, grass, and dirt. And it was what it was, and it was where it was in the world. And the stone was dark. And the stone was bright. And the stone was loud. And the stone was quiet. And it sat where it sat with the water, grass, and dirt, and it was as it was where it was in the world. And the stone was rough, and the stone was smooth. And the stone was green, red, purple, and blue. And the stone was a pebble, and the stone was a hill. And the stone was a feel, and the stone was a smell. And it sat where it sat with the water, grass, and dirt, and it was as it was where it was in the world. And the stone was wild, and the stone was home. And the stone was a kitchen, and the stone was a throne. And the stone was a marker and a map and a maze, a danger, a haven, a story, a stage. And the stone was an island, and the stone was a wave. And the stone was a memory, and the stone was always. Have you ever known such a place? Where water, grass, and dirt, a stone sits still in the world. That's it. Now it's time for a blessing. We are blessed. We are blessed by being. We are blessed by being here. We are blessed by being here together. Join in singing the song in the order of service.
There are many ways we give to the life of this church, and the monetary offering is just one of these ways. Each month we partner with a local organization that is doing really great, really important work in our community, and we share the money that we gather. Our partner for May is Wave Educational Fund, which is a statewide grassroots organization dedicated to preventing gun violence, injuries, and deaths through education and advocacy. Your generous support will help Wave's youth program. Each year, the organization offers a paid summer internship to guide and educate young individuals about gun violence prevention and advocacy strategies, including community outreach and engagement. Thank you so much for your continued generosity, both to our congregation and to these organizations in our community. Part of being in community is sharing our lives with one another, sharing our joys and our sorrows. For this morning, if you'll join me first in shared prayer, and then we will have space to share our joys and to light our candles. You'll join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. These words from Reverend Linda Hart. From where we have come, this breath, these fingers, a heart that opens and closes, opens and closes. What is it that made this body, feet and legs, hair and teeth? We come into consciousness in the middle of the story. The world and its vast life reaches far before we knew and grasps at the future we cannot see. And here we are, living these days for better or for worse. Whatever acts of chance occurred to bring us to birth, whatever happenstance laid this particular path for our lives, in these moments of calm and stillness, let our hearts open in gratitude for the gifts that can be found along the way, for the love given sweet and free, for the peace of the morning and the warm colors of the sunset, for the grace of companions and moments of ongoing birth as our hearts are renewed, and for those of us who have offered, and for those who have offered us the gift of mothering. No matter their age or gender, those who have tended and care, who have offered support and comfort, who have been with us, those who have given us life by birth or by their presence in our lives. Recognizing that grief often comes with such memories, let us open in compassion for our broken hearts, for lost mothers, mothers who could not love us as we needed, mothers who abandoned us, and especially for those whose longing for children was never met. In the stillness of these moments, I invite you to speak aloud the names of those who have given you life, who have companioned you, who are held in your heart this day. I invite you to hold those names in your heart, to share them out loud into this sacred space. We hold these names and so many more on our hearts this morning as we go through our day. Part of us coming together each Sunday is a practice to remember that we are held together always, that what we go through, these joys, these sorrows, these concerns in between, we come here to hold them together for just a time. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like to share, I invite you to come forward. You can light a candle, you can share aloud into the microphone, and then light a candle with the gentle reminder that we are sharing these online on YouTube this morning. If you have a joy or sorrow, or if you would like to light a candle, I invite you forward.
All right, so I don't usually talk because I'm usually upstairs, but I'm not today. So I've been thinking a lot about how this feels like my era of motherhood and how incredibly lucky and blessed and special it is that I have both my mother and I am a mother right now, and how that is a brief window often. And I was reminded of that this morning when two of my very good friends who have their own babies asked me to hug my mom for them because they have lost theirs in the past year. And I'm just thinking of them and their mothers and incredibly grateful to be the middle part of the mother sandwich of my family right now.
I had the joy and privilege of attending an anniversary party last night. And it was for an organization that has had a huge impact in southeastern Wisconsin, and that is the LGBT Center of Southeast Wisconsin. It was the 15th anniversary gala, and that's G-A-Y-L-A. And it was a party for the community, its allies, and supporters. And it was just a wonderful, joyous evening last night.
I have a joy and a fear. Next weekend, I'm in a chorus and we're putting on a huge show, and I'm so excited and so terrified. But it's real joy to be a part of a community like that and to make such big sound together. I'm with the Racine Choral Arts, and the show is Carmina Burana.
We light one final candle for the joys, the sorrows that remain on our hearts, the joys and the sorrows of our beloveds joining us online. Will you join me now in a moment of quiet to pray, to meditate, or to dream? Amen and blessed be. I invite you to join in our sung response. There is a love holding me, there is a love holding us. The words are in the order of service. Our reading this morning, To Be a Person, by Jane Hirschfield. To be a person is an untenable proposition. To be a person is an untenable proposition, out of proportion, upright, unbalanced of body, feeling, and mind. Two predators' eyes facing forward, yet seem always to be trying to look back. Unhooved, untaloned fingers seem to grasp mostly grief and pain, to create too often mostly grief and pain. Some take in witnessed suffering pleasure, some make of witnessed suffering beauty. On the other side, a creature capable of blushing, who chooses to spin until dizzy, likes what is shiny, demands to stay awake even when sleepy, learns what is basic, what acid, what are stomata, nuclei, jokes, which birds are flightless, learns to play four-handed piano, to play when is needed, one-handed piano, hums, feeds strays, says, all together now, on three. To be a person may be possible then after all. Or the question may be considered still at least open, an unused drawer, a pair of waiting work boots. How do we tell the stories of who we are? How do we tell those stories? When we get to tell the world, how do we decide? I've been thinking about this a lot since last week. Last week we talked about how so rarely is there a single story of what is happening in our relationships, and that if we approach one another with curiosity, we not only get a clearer picture of what is happening, we also have the opportunity then to deepen our relationship with one another. And we can practice this with ourselves as well. I'm curious, has anybody ever reacted to something and gone, why did I say that? Ooh, that was interesting. Why did I act that way? Why do I feel this way now? Where did this come from? And with these questions, maybe we invite ourselves to learn something more about who we are. A deeper understanding then of our own core values, our own experiences, our own expectations. Asking these questions of ourselves. And there are themes, and there are stories, there are experiences from our lives that change. They grow as we grow. Our understanding of what happened in that moment changes as we gain more experience, and yet we have these stories that travel with us like an old friend. We have these stories that continue to grow as we grow. For me, the story is often, it's the story of my call to ministry, right? We've heard this. It's also the story that I tell the most often. So how did you become a Unitarian Universalist minister anyway? And the way that I came into Unitarian Universalism and have always framed it, and I did this at the beginning of our time together. It was that one minister who I met with and said, yes, you can be a minister. Here's the date of your first sermon. I've always shared that as her expecting my success right from the beginning. That was her gift, that she expected me to succeed, and I have taken that to every congregation. I told you at the beginning of our time, I am expecting you to succeed. I know you will. But as we have been talking about centering love in our faith tradition, I've been rethinking what this call story means, and I want to share a definition of love from Bell Hooks. She writes, quote, "I was deeply relieved when I found a definition of love in psychiatrist M. Scott Peck's classic self-help book, The Road Less Traveled, first published in 1978. He defines love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth." Explaining further, he continues, "Love is as love does. Love is an act of will, namely both an intention and an action. Love as both. Love is both an intention and an action, and with that choice of action comes then accountability and responsibility." So as I've been thinking about this call story and this expecting success, I was just telling this most recently, and it clicked. This wasn't just expecting success, this was an act of love. This was a way that she said, "I love you," right? An intention to help, and the action to say yes along my journey. This story that I have told time and time again is still teaching me what it means to be present, what it means to be loving, what it means to understand expectation about who we are in these relationships. And then we have stories. We have those stories in our lives that are inviting us to keep learning from them, to keep learning with them, the stories that are harder to tell, right? The stories that might remain deeper until we're really ready to learn from them, until we're really ready to hear the lesson. When I first started in Racine, just beginning, I had been here maybe 2 weeks. I attended a vigil for a young person who had been killed by gun violence in the city. Right when I started, I wore my collar to show clergy support and love. I joined with dozens of others in this space for prayer and storytelling. And because I had my collar on, the organizers looked at me and said, come on, come to a prayer, come to a prayer, come to a prayer. I looked into the eyes of the mother. I stumbled. Something about love and care and grief, and handed that microphone back as quickly as I possibly could. And immediately felt all of that shame and not enoughness that comes when you don't show up the way you're expected to from others or from yourself, that feeling of having let other people down. Right after that vigil, that night, I went and knocked on the Reverend Tony Larson's door. He lived down the hall from me at that point. He had started these vigils. Surely he would have some wisdom for me. So I'm knocking on his door and trying really hard not to cry. I had a calling and I fell so short of it in the moment. He opened the door, welcomed me in, listened for a while. He shared a similar story of not doing exactly what was needed and reminded me that this is part of what we like to call embodied learning. Sometimes the only way to truly learn a lesson is to experience it the hard way. He shared a prayer with me as a starting point. He went to his filing cabinet and ruffled through and pulled out a printed prayer, reminded me that this will happen again and again and again and again, and to find a way to learn, to grow, and try not to be afraid. Just try not to be afraid. Another act of love. This story, not as polished or as well considered as the call. In fact, I retold this for the first time recently. And as I was telling this story, I thought, ooh, this is one I still have some learning to do with This one, I have some more questions to ask. What was needed in that moment? What was my role? What is about me and what is not about me? Right? What follow-up should have happened or not? I know this story and I still have some work to do. I was surprised when my understanding of my call to ministry changed. It deepened a little bit for me. I was surprised. This one, we'll keep working together. And that's really a beautiful thing. That's part of our work, right? Making sense of our stories, sharing them together, learning from them. Ralph de la Rosa writes that we are not one-dimensional, and our multiple dimensions are not static. Just as our bodies are made of many parts that form a dynamic, interwoven system that works together, so too is it with our psyches. We are more awake, more alive, more complex than we know. For this moment, this is how I tell these two foundational stories about who I have been, who I am becoming. Ask me next week, maybe there'll be a different version. Isn't that beautiful? We get to do that with our stories. We get to share and learn and grow and ask. Right? To be a person is an untenable position, out of proportion, upright, unbalanced of body, feeling, and mind. On the other side, a creature capable of blushing, who chooses to spin until dizzy, likes what is shiny. To be a person may be possible then after all. Or the question may be considered at least open, an unused drawer, a pair of waiting work boots. And that's an important part of our stories as well. What is yet to come? What is still unwritten? What is waiting for us this afternoon, tomorrow, next week? The work that is still to be done. And that's a practice too, right? To be able to stay open. To stay open to what still might be, what still could be, open to both the lessons, the stories, the learning, and to what is to come. This story told almost as a creation myth, this example of staying open against all odds. This is a story told by Reverend Elizabeth Strong, who adapted it from Reverend Christopher Rabel's keynote address to the 1982 New York State Convention of Universalists. The American Universalists' only miracle story is also the story of the denomination's founding. It starts in 1770 in England. John Murray was depressed, an almost broken person. Through his readings, he'd arrived at Universalist theology and embarked on a career as a minister, spreading this idea that all are saved by God's love. What matters is what we do for and with one another here on earth, that Universalist theology. But few people joined his church. On top of that, his wife had died, and he had to serve a short term in debtor's jail when he couldn't pay for her doctor bills. So on release from jail, he resolved to start a life afresh in the New World. That was his plan. He was going to go to the New World and never preach again. But fate, or as Murray would see it later, divine providence intervened. The ship on which he set sail ran aground in a sandbar off of New Jersey coast. Not wanting to risk a crew member, the captain asked Murray if he would go ashore. There, Murray stumbled upon Thomas Potter, a well-to-do but illiterate farmer who himself had arrived at Universalist theology 20 or so years before. And he believed it so strongly, he built a chapel on his farm. He built a chapel on his farm, waiting for a preacher to arrive and preach universalism. Seeing Murray as the man he had been waiting for, he asked and begged and pleaded, "Please preach this Sunday. You are who I have been waiting for. This was built for you. Preach, preach." Reluctantly, Murray agreed, under the condition that the ship did not break loose before Sunday. As long as the ship doesn't leave before Sunday. Then he started pacing, kept looking out the window, willing that ship to move. Remember, he promised never to preach again. Saturday, the ship was still there, so he thought, maybe I should write some things down. Waiting, Sunday morning, it was still aground. And so he preached. And that experience changed his life. From then on, he preached universalism. And a few years later, he founded the first Universalist church in North America in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And from his reluctant sermon, Universalism grew until at its height in the late 19th century, it was the 6th largest denomination in the country, staying open to what's to come. And the town that the ship ran aground in, the name of that town, does anybody know? The name of that town, Good Luck, New Jersey. To be a person may be possible then after all. Or the question may be considered still at least open. An unused drawer, a pair of waiting work boots. I am a collection of stories. Some may lean more toward myth. Some I love to tell. Some I hope others tell about me. Some I hope others don't tell about me. Some spill out accidentally. Some stories are buried deep. Not ready to come to light. They'll get there. Some ready to be examined carefully with love and curiosity. We, Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church, are a collection of stories. Some lean more towards myth. Some we love to tell. Some we hope others tell about us. Some we hope others don't tell about us. Some of our stories are buried deep. Some spilling forward, some ready to be examined, still so many to be written with love and curiosity. How do we tell the stories of who we are? When we get to tell our own stories, when we get to tell the world who we are, how do we decide? There isn't a single story of this congregation. The gathered people that have made this a place for generations, countless stories. My hope is that this place, this people, this universal love shared is like that stone in our story, the stone that always was, the stone that we each have a connection to, that stone that sits always in the world. With this stone, this love universal, we can sit with the stories that make us who we are. The stories that will help shape us into who we will become, the stories still to be told, the work boots still waiting. That while to be a person is an untenable position, here we are, reminding one another that to be a person may be possible. Or the question may be considered at least still open. May it be so, so may it be. Will you rise in body and spirit? Join me in singing hymn 318, We Would Be One. about 108? Does that sound better? 108 sounds better. Let's try 108. Thank you. We extinguish our chalice, but not the light of this community. That light cannot be extinguished, for it lives in each of us, reminding us we are connected, held always in a larger love. Our worship is over. Our service begins. Go forth singing. How can we keep from singing? Because darn it, to be a person may be possible after all. Thank you for reminding me of that day after day after day. Go forth with curiosity. Go forth with love. Go forth sharing that love with those you meet until we return again. Thank you.